Hey everybody, KC here. So I'm actually in Stamford, Connecticut at the moment. It's nice to actually get out of the office for the occasional FaceTime with the content guy. And this is a Fairway store that is closed. It is not one of the Fairway stores that was sold to Amazon, not one of the Fairway stores that were sold to other companies. This one is empty. It's about 80,000 something square feet. And it's interesting because there was a story about it in the Stamford Advocate the other day, and one of the things they talked about, they quoted the guy who is the commercial real estate person in charge of this particular location. And boy, I wouldn't want to be in the commercial real estate business at the moment. But they quote him as saying that it's a clear-cut winner for another grocer to come in. It's just finding the right grocer. Well, maybe not. Okay, first of all, I don't know that this is such a great location. Yeah, there are a lot of apartment buildings and stuff over there and some housing. There's also an asphalt plant that you could probably hear in the background over there. It's not such a great location. And I have to say, from the moment that Fairway came in here, it just never had the magic that a lot of the other Fairway stores had. Now, maybe that's because Fairway, at a certain point, they were owned by a financial group as opposed to being run by merchants. Merchants are always a little bit better at coming up with store magic than financial guys. But this store just never really had it. It always just seemed way too big and way undifferentiated. Lots of product, but they really didn't do what they needed to do with it. But they're talking in this article, the Stamford Advocate, they say, oh, we're going to find the right grocer. And they start listing all the grocers. Like, they talk about maybe Wegmans would come in. Well, Wegmans just opened a store, I don't know, 15 miles from here, just over the New York border. It took a long time for them to get down to this part of the world. This just doesn't seem it would be a great Wegmans location, although, quite frankly, they would draw people in. They talked to Stu Leonard, and Stu Leonard says, no, we're not really interested. I'm not surprised by that particularly, because there is just the original Stu Leonard store in Norwalk, Connecticut. Well, it's only about, 10, 11 miles in that direction, just east on 95. Although I will say, I checked, they now have two stores on Long Island, and they're about 10, 11 miles from each other. So it's certainly not doable, but, they've opened a bunch of stores, and this does not seem to be a place that they'd be particularly interested in. Although maybe if other companies were interested, they might do it as a defensive play. Listen, they talked to Stop and Shop. Stop and Shop, I think this is way too big for a Stop and Shop store. It just doesn't seem to be the right location for them. There's a grade A ShopRite that's not too far from here, about a mile, but that's right in an area where there's a lot of housing, and that store has been there for, 30, 40 years. It's hard to imagine that they would relocate it here, and I'm not sure they want to have two stores operating within a mile of each other. And listen, they even talked to Trader Joe's. Yeah, it's only bigger than a Trader Joe's by about, 70,000 square feet. Whoever was writing the article for the Stamford Advocate clearly has no idea what makes the Trader Joe's different from this kind of Fairway store. The problem right now is there's going to be a lot of locations like this that may become available as brick and mortar stores that are simply unable to compete for whatever the reason happens to be, are closing down. Listen, there's a mall less than a mile from here, the Stamford Town Center. The retailers are bailing out of there like rats deserting a sinking ship. And it is a sinking ship, let me tell you. So it's hard to imagine they're going to be able to find a big box retailer that's going to want to go into here. Me, I look at that and I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe WeWork? Maybe a really big WeWork location? Or, and this is probably even more likely just in terms of positioning space, 95's, half a mile from here. This might make a really interesting Amazon distribution center, and maybe the kind of thing where they could test a new format where they actually have a pickup and delivery component in it as well. Anyway, it is the problem that so many different commercial real estate people are facing as stores. Listen, brick and mortar is not what it used to be. I'm not saying brick and mortar is dying, but we seem to be at an inflection point, and it's hard to know what you're going to be able to do with an 80,000 square foot Dinosaur like this one. Anyway, that's what's on my mind this morning. And as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.